Hello everyone. It is Jackie from Pocket of Preschool, and tonight I am telling you all about how I started my own in-home preschool and kind of like the process of how I did it and things to think about if you're going to do it, and then kind of the steps you can do to do it. So before we get going any further, I want you to tell me in the comments if you have your own preschool, or if you work at a public school, or if you work at a parochial school, or if you're in the process of starting your own in-home preschool, or where's everybody kind of at and where are we working, just so I kind of know. And if you guys have any comments, I'll try and watch them really close tonight and answer them as we go. So I taught a little bit of kind of like my backstory. So I taught in a public preschool. I went to school right out of high school to college, and I got my bachelor's and master's all at once. I had a 5-year program at Maryville University, so I got my bachelor's in elementary ed, and then my master's was in early childhood education. So got double certified and did 2 student teachings, all the things. And I fell in love with preschool once I did my student teaching, and then I worked in a public preschool. I was 5 days a week, full day, Monday through Friday. The kids got to pick what days they came, and then so after that I did that for about 12-13 years, and then I saw a need in my community, so I finished my basement and I opened my own in-home preschool up, and I just did half day. So I did Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, I think it was 8:30 to noon, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So that was it. And then the other time I was spending working on my TPT store, and my kiddos were at home with me still. So I got to be an at-home mom too, which was great. So it's kind of like best of both worlds. But it was quite the process. I live in Missouri, and my biggest thing, if you take anything away from tonight, think about this. I want you, before you spend any money, before you spend hours of planning, decorating, anything, I want you to check your subdivision rules and regulations, your city, your county, and your state. All of those different things have different rules. Like some subdivisions you can have a preschool, some you can't, or run a business out of your home. And a preschool would be considered a business. And you don't really want to fly under the radar, because if you have a neighbor that let's say, doesn't want all the traffic, even though they're super nice to you, they may not want all that traffic in the subdivision. So they may get your preschool canceled. So you really want to follow all the rules of your subdivision, your city, your county, and your state. All the rules, all the ordinances, all the things. So look all of that up before. Some states really have you jump through hoops. Missouri is one where you are jumping through a lot of hoops to get your preschool open. It took me about 7-8 months to get my preschool started. And so when I say started, so when I went on the site and I started all the paperwork, it took about 6-7 months, maybe even longer than that, because I had to turn in all the paperwork, and then we had to change a couple things in the preschool to make sure, things were correct. I actually had to go to planning and zoning meetings because I had to get my parking approved at my house to make sure that they approved it, the parking, and so a fire truck, they approved it so a fire truck could get in and out safely. So if there was an emergency, we could get help if we needed it. So that was really fun. I think I had to go to 2 or 3 of those at night, and they approved it. It was fine, but it was still a very lengthy process. It's not something you don't want to quit your teaching job and say, I'm going to open my own preschool and think it's going to be fine, because make sure you read over those subdivision, city, county, and state rules and ordinances, and any city planning and zoning. Read through all of it very, very carefully. For example, in Missouri, you have to have 2 sinks. You have to have a double sink in your preschool. That way you can have one for like mess and one for food, just for sanitation reasons. You also have to have like an exhaust fan in the bathroom. If you're, you have to have a fence, and your fence has to be approved. You can't have like rose bushes in your preschool outdoor space. Like, you have to have plants that will not hurt the children if they eat them, run into them, fall on them, things like that. Your hot water, I had to have, during the process of getting state license in the state of Missouri, I had the fire marshal or the fire inspector come out, and he checked all of my what's it called, fire extinguishers, and checked my hot water and making sure it wasn't too hot for the preschoolers, like when they would put their hands under the water. So it was a lot of things to kind of go through. We had to get a fence for the backyard, which was an undertaking. And it's if you have to get like things like a fence or have to get changes to your home, it can be quite expensive to start your own in-home preschool. If you have all of that stuff already, then it's not that bad. But like, we had to get a fence, and we finished the basement, which we were going to anyways. So it wasn't a big deal, but, and then, but again, make sure you check all of your subdivision, your city, your county, your state ordinances, regulations, all of the things. You read through it very, very carefully. And then you check with planning and zoning. And there's another thing to think about. If you have a pet in your home, some states are really strict about having pets in your home. You can only have certain pets, you can't have others. So you'll have to check about pets or a pet that you have in your home, if that would be okay. What the rules and regulations are with the pet. Like, we had a dog. So like, the dog had to like stay upstairs. It couldn't go down in the preschool. Obviously we couldn't, it actually did not use my preschool playground to go to the bathroom. It used a different part of our yard, just to make sure, there wasn't, that in the backyard where the kids are playing. And then like, some states are really, really slow, and they lose your paperwork multiple times, and they go through staffing changes. And I think I went through, I think it was 3. So I had my preschool 3 years. I think I had like 4 different people, because people change and staffing changes, and then like their zones change. And then, so you're constantly getting like well, at least for me, I was constantly getting a new person from the state coming, and they do drop-ins, which is fine. I was used to that because I taught at public school. I was used to supervisors coming in anytime they wanted, so that was not a big deal to me. But yeah, so yeah. And then you also want to look too at what are the training requirements for you. And then like, for example, for me, if I didn't have another adult with me that was working in the preschool, I had to have another adult in my home, which was my husband at the time. He had to be like CPR trained, and he had to have like the criminal background check and all of that, and obviously I did too. So we had to go through all of that. And you have to have your CPR training and your first aid training, and he did too, because he was another adult in the house. So like, if I got hurt, if there was an emergency and I got hurt, he was there, and he could, take care of emergencies safely. And then also like how many yearly hours do you have to have training? Like, for Missouri, we had to have, I think, 10 hours of training every year, and you could do the ones through the state, or we could do ones like go to a conference and get that approved through our state rep, and to say, yeah, that's fine, great. So again, make sure you're taking all of the rules, all of them, especially if you have a pet and you need a fence. Check all of that, because it can get really expensive really quick. Or you may not be able to make those changes to your house. Like, you may not be able to put an exhaust fan. Like, an example, this is just Missouri again. You may not be able to put an exhaust fan in your bathroom, or you may not be able to put a double sink in for your preschool sink. So just make sure you check all of the state and city, county, subdivision regulations, rules, and before you start buying and planning and pouring your heart into your preschool. So let's say you got all of that and you are good to go. So the state is probably going to have you make like a handbook, and they're going to make you turn things in. and you'll have to have your trainings and your CPR and your first aid and all of that. You'll have to turn in all that paperwork, probably, is my guess. So once you do kind of all of that, and I'll go through kind of like the handbook and stuff in a minute, and so yeah. So you also probably may want to register for an LLC. Like in the state of Missouri, I had to register my name, even though I think I had it as an LLC, Pocket of Preschool Academy. I can't remember. I think it was, take it back. It was all under Pocket of Preschool. So I didn't have to make a separate LLC for it. So it was under my like Pocket of Preschool umbrella. But I did make a separate bank account for that. That way those funds were going in there. And you want to make sure you have a budget. So you don't want to just spend all the money and not make any profit, because you need to eat, you need clothes, your kids or your family needs a home, a shelter, you probably need a car. So you want to make sure that you make a budget and make sure that that's feasible for you. You can research pricing in your area. I just researched the pricing in my area. I did half day, so there was actually some half day programs in my area. They're a little farther away, like they're half an hour away from me, but I lived in the country at the time, so that was close. So it was comparable to them. And you want to look too, like at the quality of childcare too, that you're going to give, and what your credentials are, like what your training is versus what the other schools in your area are, and make it accordingly. You don't want to price it too high where parents can't afford it, and you don't want to price it too low to where, you know, you're not making any money. So it's kind of a really interesting little game. So yeah, so register, make an LLC, get a bank account, and some checks, so that way that money is separate to make it easier, because you are going to have to claim it on your taxes at the end of the year. Now again, with your state, and I'm not giving anyone any tax advice, because I have a tax person who helps me, or who actually does all my taxes, so I don't know the rules. I do what he says, and he knows the rules. That's his job. So make sure you check all of your tax rules and regulations as well. Like if you're gonna have another person with you in your classroom, you're gonna have to give them, you're gonna have to pay them, and you're gonna have to give them like a W-2 or an I-9 or whatever it is that you're going to set up. So you need to think about that too, because if you have a W-2, then you have to pay different taxes to have an employee and all of those things. So it can get expensive that way too. So yeah, so think about that. So check city, state, county rules and regulations, what you need for licensing, check out planning and zoning in your area, check out the rules about pets. If you have a pet, get state license, check what trainings you need to have, make an LLC or get a bank account set up. That way that money is separate, and make a budget. And then once you have that, you also want to think about, while you're researching like what you're going to price your preschool, you also want to think about too, do you want to do half day? Do you want to do full day? Do you want to offer options for families? What ages do you want? Do you want infants? Do you want just preschool, pre-K? Because again, ratios are vary by state, but you're gonna have to go by licensing rules for your state. So if you have infants, you can't have obviously as many infants, but if you have an infant and a 5-year-old, and you may have to take different ages than you initially thought when you're getting started. Getting started is a little bit tricky. I was not full my first year. I did do marketing at I did join the Chamber of Commerce in my area, and I helped do the Easter egg hunt and at the festivals and things like that to kind of get the word out. But now I was lucky. I lived in a small town, so you went in the gas station, everyone knew everyone. You went in the local restaurant, like the one restaurant in little town, and I say little town because there's a stop. There's a 4-way stop. That's with the gas station and little restaurant. That's the town. So everyone knew everyone. So I was lucky in that. way where I didn't have to market that much. But again, I wasn't full my first year, but that was okay. My next 2 years, I was full. And then you want to think about, so we think about ages. Do you want babies or infants? Do you want just infants? I love babies. Like if I would go back, I might just do infants. I love babies. They're my favorite. I do love preschoolers, but early childhood just has my heart. I just love all the little itty bitties. But yeah, so, and then think about, do you want half day? Do you want full day? What are your hours gonna be? Are you gonna be open 7 to 6? That's a long time. That does not give you a lot of wiggle room to go to the doctor, to take your kids to the doctor, take your kids to the dentist, to go to the grocery store. Also think about when you're making your hours, are your own kids or your own family, are they involved in sports or after school activities or with your church or whatever organization with? You have to be somewhere at 4:30, because if you do, you're gonna need to close around 4. That way you can get there in time and things like that. So you wanna make sure your hours are work for you, obviously, because you're gonna be the one running it. So like I was 8:30 to noon, and I just did Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But I did do like Packet of Preschool website stuff and making curriculum the other days. And again, I was at home with my babies because they were not in school yet. So it worked out really good. If you offer, like if you're 5 days a week, are you gonna let families enroll for 2 days? Are you gonna have like a set 2 days? Say, okay, if you want 2 days, you have to pick, Tuesday, Thursday. If you want 3 days, you have to pick Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That way you can fill your classroom better or easier, because you're gonna have all those, you're not gonna have a weird pocket of or a day where you are 3 kids short. Because that can really affect your budget and how much supplies you have and things like that. Because I think it's kind of expensive to run a preschool, because I feel like you're always buying more things for your classroom. You're buying snacks, you're buying cleaning supplies. If things break, you're buying all the paper, you're the one making the copies, you're the one laminating, so you're having to buy all of that stuff. Especially if you are starting out, you're gonna have to buy the furniture and all the things. So think about what days you wanna let kids have. And if you're just starting out, you may just have to take whatever works that year, especially if you're not full, or maybe you're not full yet, and it's like coming to July. You may say, hey, we have openings, help me out here. And everybody tell everybody, and have it work that way. And then once you start to get full and get a reputation, then you can kind of be a little more, you can kind of really have that schedule that you want, your ideal schedule. But it may take a few years to get there, and that's okay. As long as, again, if that budget works for you, and you can still eat and have clothes and have a roof over your head and all the things. And then another thing to think about too is, so Kathy said, I'm gonna stop for a second and answer Kathy's question. So Kathy said, did I provide snack, or did the kiddos bring their own? So I would go by the state that you're in. I would go by their rules of what they have. So like in my state, there was no outside food allowed. So I provided all the snack. And there were requirements, like we had to have 2 food groups for the snack, and there was like portions, like it had to be like, I think it was like half a cup of fruit and whatever it was. And I had it like hanging in the snack cabinet. That way I could follow it and I would remember it. And make yourself posters just like you would at your own or at the preschool you work in right now. If you have a poster that says the serving sizes, I would put that absolutely up and make yourself one in your snap cabinet. That way you're making sure that you're following all those state rules and regulations. I always gave kids plenty of food. That was never an issue, but I had them there just to make sure I was, doing everything correctly. I'm a big rule follower, so I like to follow the rules. And then the other thing is, so that was a great question. In-home preschools don't make that much money. Where she lives, can you make a livable wage? So I would say you're gonna have to, again, research the pricing in your area and you're gonna have to literally figure it out on pencil and paper and see if it's feasible for you. And you're also gonna wanna think about, you're probably gonna wanna have insurance, so that way if there's an emergency or a kid falls and gets hurt, you have insurance and you are covered. I had insurance, so that's a cost too. So there are a lot of little costs that add up pretty quick. I also was really lucky because, again, I had taught for 13 years and I was a dollar store or $1.25 store queen. So I had a lot of supplies. The only big things I had to buy when I started my preschool was all of this white IKEA furniture. I did have to buy these tables, which the tables I got from Discount School Supply. Basically I got a lot of my furniture from IKEA. My library table, my writing table, and my science table are from IKEA. So is my science table. These little chairs, they're from Walmart, and I did buy unit blocks. And then I bought a couple of other like little things, and then like paper, pencils, crayons, things like that. So I didn't have a huge startup cost because I had taught for 13 years and I just had accrued quite the collection over the years. I did have to buy things too, like the snack bowls and cups and things like that, but I just got a lot of that from IKEA. IKEA was like amazing when I first got started, because I think it's pretty reasonable and I think it holds up really well. And again, you're also going to want to make sure you anchor things to the wall. Make sure you do that. To make sure, if kids climb, nothing is falling on them. Okay, here's where I was going next. I do have notes to make sure I wouldn't forget to tell you guys anything. So you're also going to want to think about, are you going to follow, are you going to be open January 1st all the way to December 31st? Are you going to be open during the summer, or are you going to follow the school year? So I follow the school year calendar. So whatever district I lived in, I actually started, I think the week before, a couple days before I started, before the district, so that way everybody wasn't having their first day at the same time. So they didn't have to take their preschooler to school on the first day and then take their kindergartner or their first grader. So that way it was kind of staggered. So that way everybody could get all the pictures and do all the things, and everything wasn't new all at one time. Everybody wasn't having anxiety and crying and tears and all the horribleness that comes sometimes with the first day, all those first day big feelings. They were a little bit staggered. So I started a couple days, if school started on a Wednesday in my district where I lived, I started on that Monday. And I tried to start on a full week. And then actually the first month I prorated, because I started 2 weeks into August. And I actually charged a monthly rate, so I forgot what it was actually. But it was let's just say $500 a month. And then I prorated that first month to $250 a month. I can't remember actually what I charged. I don't remember. It wasn't 500, I know that. It was lower than that. But again, it's gonna depend on where you live. And then the last month I just finished out in May, and I think I went until Memorial Day, because that's when the school district let out for us too. But if you want to go all year long, that's an option too for you. And then are you going to take school agers? If you're open during the summer, are you going to do that? All exciting things to think about. And then make a calendar. So pick what days you're closed. Are you going to be closed on all of those holidays? Are you going to be closed on President's Day? Are you going to be closed on Labor Day? Pick what days you want to be closed. Are those going to be included in tuition, or are those not? I did a prorate, or I did a monthly rate. And I tried to be, I did do a winter break. Mine was shorter though than the district I worked in, because I felt bad charging parents and families for a month when we were only open 3 weeks, and I didn't want to do more than a week close for vacation or for spring break and winter break. And then are you going to have a vacation day policy? So if a child is going on vacation during the school year, do they get, let's say, in the school district where I work, they got 5 days. They got a day for every day they attended. So if they attended 5 days a week, they got a 5-day vacation that they could take without paying that. So think about that. If you want to do that, I did I kind of like worked, I didn't have it in my policy book. I said that if you miss a day, you're still charged. But like if a family said they were going to Europe, I mean, my families didn't, but if they said they were going to go to Europe for a week and a half, I probably would have worked with them on the tuition. But in my handbook, it did say, you know, if you go on vacation, because again, I was half day, 3 days a week. But if you're full day and 5 days a week, that's something you got to think about. And think about too, what's the tolerance in your area? What do you think will be okay? What do you think wouldn't be okay? What's okay with you? What's not okay with you? Again, it's your preschool, so you're gonna have to make the policies and you're gonna have to enforce the policies. The other thing is substitutes. So like, if I was sick, I told families, I would call them, I would give them, obviously if I woke up sick, I would just call them that morning, but I tried to, and honestly, knock on wood, after I taught for 13 years, I had a pretty high immune system, so I didn't really get sick. I think I had to call off once because I was sick, and I did a phone chain or like a text chain the night before, but figure out what your policy is, and just, again, these are just things to think about, so that way you know when they happen, and if families ask, they know what to expect. So yeah, so like if I was sick, I would text everybody, say school's canceled for tomorrow, you know, unfortunately I'm sick, I will see you guys on Friday if it was Wednesday or something, like that. So yeah. And then also have plans what you're gonna do if your own kids are sick. So if your son or your daughter is sick, like is your spouse gonna watch them, or are you gonna close your preschool, or close your school? So you gotta think about that, because obviously you can't have your sick child down around all the other preschoolers who are not sick. So you're gonna have to think about how that would work for you and your family. Everybody's gonna be different. So yeah, and it may depend on how much they're sick too. Like if it's one day, you know, they can go to grandma's house and you can still work and have your preschool open, or if they're sick for like a week, you may have to take a day. But just kind of think of, these are just things to think about and kind of plan out, because it's a lot to have your own preschool. So somebody was asking about my teacher binder. So again, these were all of the binders that I had to have for the state. There's a lot of paperwork because it's the state. I was used to, again, I worked for a school district for forever, so paperwork, not a big deal. Only difference was I had to make a lot of the forms myself. So in my form book, I kept, like, I had the injury report, and then I had the state injury report, medication authorization. Again, a lot of this stuff, medical care plan, these are a lot of the state Missouri forms. I just put them in the binder so I had access to them if I needed them very easily. This was my state accreditation binder, so that way when they came and they said, hey, show me this, I could be like, okay. I used all the tabs from my teacher binder, which is in my TPT store, so I used all of that. Actually, sorry, these are a little bit different. The tabs in my teacher binder look like this, and then there's white ones too. But anyways, so yeah, so yeah, because this I made before I put my teacher binder in my TPT store. Like, I have general information, I had my parent handbook, I had all of my health and sanitation things I needed. So when the health and safety inspector came, I had all of that. I had to keep all of my old snack menus. I had to keep my emergency reports, all of my emergency preparedness goodness. Like, I had to keep track of when I did tornado drills with my students. You can see, like, fire department stuff, all the things. I had to keep PD, my schedule, my floor plan. I have lesson plans in here, but I also had to have a floor plan up kind of like by the doors, so if there was a fire or an emergency, people would know how to get out, because it's preschool, but that's okay. I still had it up. It's fine. I follow the rules. And then I had to list all my materials and equipment that was in all my centers, any student records, staff records, And then I actually printed the state regulations at the back, just so I had a copy, because I am a paper copy kind of girl, and I just wanted to have a paper copy with me at all times, so if I didn't know something, I could look it up really easily, and I wouldn't have to be on a device, and I could highlight it, and you can tell I like have it like post-it noted and all the things, so I could mark it up all the places. So I just kept this, and then I had to keep all my sign-in sheets from, you know, the whole year. This was my old, actually, teacher binder that I had before I found them on my beautiful rings. I have a whole blog post about my teacher binder, not my accreditation binder, but my teacher binder. My phone wiggled, sorry guys. My teacher binder on my blog, so that link's at the top. And then, yeah, so my handbook, do you guys want me to kind of tell you what's in there? I will real quick. So I basically took my policies and procedures when I taught in the public school, and I just kind of added things to it, and you guys are gonna laugh because look how it copied. So I had like my kind of vision, I had eligibility, like they had to be 3 years old, so what those requirements were. I had hours of operations, licensing stuff, just stuff about curriculum. I chose to have parent-teacher conferences twice a year. I still did that in my own preschool. I had a little blurb about my teacher training and ongoing education. I had a little blurb about communication, family mailboxes, which was where they got notes every week, or their newsletters. I had a note about payments, which is very important to have a note about your payments. Let's see what else. Drop off and pick up, kind of like the procedure for that, sign in and out, how they were not allowed to bring in items from home unless it was a security item, so I didn't obviously want toys brought in. I talked about book orders. I did have them sign a video and photo release, since, you know, my blog. Or you would, if you are going to post anything on social media, or if you're sending families out through an app. I did use one of the apps. I can't remember which one. It was glitchy for me, so I wouldn't recommend it. The one I had, but again, that was like a couple years, well, 3 years ago now, because yeah, that was the last time I used it. But again, I only had 8 kids in my class, so I didn't really need the app. I would just text each family member their photos from the day. So I did that, and I had a little blurb about emergency drills, supplies. I did have a blurb about illness, like when a child would have to go home, when they couldn't come to school. And again, I just pulled all of that out of the state regulations. Stuff about injury, medication, immunizations. Again, a lot of this was the Missouri rules that is in here. So somebody said, would you mind sharing this? And I actually, if you guys want, I'll send this out with the newsletter tomorrow. So if you guys want to look at it, you totally can. Totally fine with me. Again, but a lot of the rules in here, just know they are Missouri rules. And some of the things in here I had to have in here according to my Missouri licensing. So if something sounds a little funky, it's probably literally cut and pasted from the website. But no big deal. But I can totally send this out with my newsletter tomorrow so you can see it. I had stuff about allergies, birthdays, parking, enrollment fees. I had a blurb about my behavior management policy, which is green and red choices, and the calm down spot, which wasn't a timeout. And then I had, this is something I will say that I think is really important. So in this spring, I did an open house. And I put it in like the little local paper and put it on Facebook and all the things. And I had families enroll. I had them, and it sounds like a lot, but I had them put down a $250 registration fee. It sounds like a lot, right? Well, I wanted to make sure that I was holding a spot for someone who was actually gonna attend my class, because if they were, because some families do this, they go around and they sign up for all the preschools, and then they pick one and they don't call anyone back. saying they're not going to come. Well, I needed that money that, or if I, and like that last year I was open, I had a wait list. So I really wanted to make sure the kids who were signed up, because I only had 8 spots, were actually coming. Like if I had an open spot, I wanted to make sure I got that spot filled before the school year started, or tried really hard those last couple weeks before school started. So I did do a $250 non-refundable registration fee. So that way if they were wishy-washy, I could say, you know what, it's totally fine. I gave them my mailing address. I gave them I gave them like a self-addressed stamped envelope, said you totally send this back to me within the next couple weeks, but just know like I only can have so many kids, and once it's full, you'll have to be put on the wait list. And once you get a good reputation out there, you will probably fill up. Because it's really hard, I think, to find quality childcare. Maybe that's just me as an early childhood teacher. And something that's close to you, that the hours work for you, because every family is so different. So yeah, it's tricky. All the things, because every family is different. Like I wanted a half-day program. Some families need a full-day program. Some families need full-day part-time. Some families need half-day part-time. So it's really hard to find that little thing that works just for your family. So yeah. And then I did have the August payment due July 2nd, because the first 2 years I was open, I even had people give me that $250 deposit, and they still didn't show up on the first day. And I had a kiddo who was on the wait list, which is no big deal, but they missed the first day of school with all of their friends because somebody didn't show up. And it just broke my heart, because then they had to start, the second day, or I think they maybe have started, we started on Monday, they had to start on that Friday. But they missed all the routines, all the procedures, just all of those classroom bonding moments and getting to know their friends. And then they came in brand new. So that is also another reason to have that registration fee be non-refundable. And if a family argues with you, say you know what, this is my policy, I'm really sorry, but I want to make sure the spots that are open, I fill them. And I also want to make sure everyone who wants to come on the first day of school can come, and everybody shows up. Because I did have that happen one year again, and that's why it says August payment is due July 2018. And then I had at the bottom all the forms they need to have for me too. And then this is just a whole bunch of stuff they had to sign according to the state. So yeah, so I will send out my little handbook and the newsletter with tomorrow's. And if you want to sign up for my newsletter, the link is at the top of this post. Okay, Lindsay said, what was your schedule as far as when a kiddos attended? Half day, 5 days a week? So when I taught in my own in-home preschool, I did 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8:30 to noon. Those were my hours, because again, I had little babies at home of my own. And yeah, and then I also did all of my Pocket of Preschool stuff on the side too. And then, yeah, if I didn't have my blog and things, I probably would have done a Monday through Friday, 2 half days, or 2 half-day sections, or maybe a full-day section. I don't know. Wasn't an option for me. So, but you do what works for you. Oh, somebody asked if I'm teaching this year. So I'm not teaching this year, because y'all are keeping me so busy with all the things you need, which is great. So I'm not teaching this year. Eventually I will get my classroom cleaned up and I'll give you guys a tour. It's set up, ready to go. As you can see, all the things. So yeah, so my basement is set up like a preschool. It's ready to go. I'm not state licensed though, because I moved during COVID. So I'm not licensed either yet. But you guys are keeping me busy, and I'm also working on updating all of my center units. So that's also keeping me busy. So yeah. So if you want to sign up for my newsletter, sign up for at the very, very top. Someone asked if I started over again, was there anything I would do differently? The one thing I didn't do was that non-refundable deposit fee. So I started doing that. And then I also made that August payment due in July to make sure I had those spots full. So that was one thing I would do different. I would always have that non-refundable deposit fee, and then I would make the first month of tuition due like 30 days before school starts to make sure I had my class full and make sure the kids who were on the wait list, if they could get in, they could get in. And everybody would start school on the first day together. So yeah. So that is a couple of things. Oh, I'm trying to see what time it is, and my watch is not helping me. Okay, the other couple things. So, curriculum-wise. So what I did for curriculum was sorry, it's reading questions. So what I did for curriculum was I know my Missouri standards. I could probably recite the Missouri Learning Standards to you. And then I also checked the public kindergarten that my students were feeding into, and I based what I was teaching off of that. And then I made my own curriculum. You can also buy like a box curriculum like Mother Goose. Obviously, I would want you to use the Pocket of Preschool curriculum, but you do what works for you, because starting a preschool is hard and there's a lot of moving pieces. Just some couple things. Other things you want to think about is the setup. Are you going to have it in a specific location? Like, are you going to have it in your dining room and then it kind of goes in your living room sometimes? Are you going to have it in your basement and you're going to finish that? Do you have like a space, or is it a shared space with your house? Do what works for you and your family and your household. The food, you're gonna want to have like a special, like for Missouri, we had to have like a special spot in the fridge. I had a downstairs fridge that had the preschool food in it, but otherwise, like, we had to keep the food separate. And you're gonna want to have a space for that. So that way, obviously, your family doesn't eat the preschool snack that you need for tomorrow or lunch or whatever it is. And then you're also going to want to make sure you have space for all the bathroom things, because it's in your house, yes, but you're going to have like for Missouri, we had to have the three-step cleaning bottles in the bathroom at a place where the kids couldn't reach. You want to have things like a trash can with a lid on it, and whatever your regulations are. Plus, you're going to want to have extra clothes and some kind of organization system for that, or like diapers, wipes, whatever your kiddos are in. So kind of think about that. If that's something, like, I had a shower in my downstairs bathroom, so a lot of that went in there. A lot of the extra clothes bins just were in the shower because we didn't use it. In my other home preschool, I had a closet in there, so that worked great. And then also, this is the one thing that this was hard for me. So it does get very lonely and isolating teaching all by yourself at your own home, because you're the only adult. Like, I went from teaching in a public school, and there was 3 of us, and there was 4 of us on my teacher team, myself included. So there were other adults. If there is a problem behavior, or if a kiddo was just crying all day, that's emotionally draining on you. You don't get a break. You don't. If a kiddo's having a problem behavior, or they're really, really upset, you have to attend to them the entire time. There's no like switching off, which I was used to since I had taught in a public school. Again, I only had 8 kids, so it was fine. But it does get very lonely and isolating when you are teaching at home by yourself. You're planning alone, you're problem solving alone, you're having to figure out all the things alone by yourself. I did get some really good teacher buddies that I relied on a lot. We messaged a lot and texted a lot back and forth with things, because they have their own home preschools too. So find a buddy. And I actually met them in Facebook preschool groups, and we became friends. We've actually met in real person, like in real life. But find somebody you can bounce ideas off of that's kind of in your same situation, or even ideally in your same state, so you guys are following the same rules. So if you have questions, or you can go to trainings together, things like that. So you can kind of have a buddy, because it does get isolating and lonely, and you're stuck in your house, which that sounds so silly, right? Especially after COVID. Like, before COVID, when I taught, it was hard, because I woke up, I taught all day, and then I would prep a little bit, and then my kids would come home and they didn't want to leave. They wanted to play at home. because my one was in kindergarten at the time, and I just wanted to get out of the house. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, get me out of my house, because I was working in my house and I was living in my house, and I just wanted out of my house sometimes. So you do get a little stir crazy. Yeah, so you're gonna want to have some support, some teacher buddies to rely on. The Pocket of Preschool Facebook group, I mean, you guys know I love all the teachers in there. It is my group, but it's actually your group, because those teachers, all of you guys in that group, oh my gosh, if it wasn't for you, one, there wouldn't be a group, and two, the ideas you have motivate me to keep making curriculum, and I know you guys are motivating each other, and it's also a really great place to get a really nice pat on the back. Like, that is awesome. Like, and you can, you know, it's so nice to hear other people think what you're doing is really awesome. So if you need a place to go, to talk, to chat, use that Pocket of Preschool Facebook group as a resource to talk, to chat, to make buddies, find teachers in your own state, and go in there. If you're having a down day, pop in there, post some of the things you're doing so you can get some positive praise and feedback, because one, that teacher group is really good for that. And two, I'm sure you're doing amazing things. And if you're teaching at home by yourself, no one is telling you how awesome you are. And you are awesome. So go in there and get some positive praise too. So find some teacher buddies, go in that group, get you some positive praise, because I'm sure you're doing awesome things, and we will tell you all how awesome you are. And then I also had to too, and this was really hard for me. So, because I'm a night person, you guys know, I would wait until 10 o'clock on a Sunday night and go downstairs and prep all the preschool things for like an hour or two, and then be ready to teach on Monday, because I'm a night person. Well, I had to stop doing that because I had to give myself kind of like work hours. Like, okay, I'm going to prep everything. I'm gonna give myself 45 minutes after school, and I'm gonna get everything prepped, and then I'm gonna go upstairs and I'm gonna do like and then I'm gonna be off from teaching. So that way I still had kind of work hours, so that way that work-life balance was a little bit better, because I did struggle with that a lot at first, because I did not have a work-life balance, and I was just going down there randomly, and then it was stressful because I was like, oh, it was like hanging over my head, right? Like, oh, I need to change out centers for this week. Oh, I'll do it in an hour. Oh, I'll do it in an hour. Oh, I'll watch this TV show, or I'll go outside and play bubbles with my kids. So once I got in the habit of finishing everything, like half hour, 45 minutes after school was done, and then I could enjoy the rest of my time, and I wouldn't be so stressed. So yeah, so that is all the things, I think. I have my notes. So do you guys have any other question? Oh, we did not go on field trips. We did not do that. And then I didn't have any like pool or anything like that. So yeah. Somebody's asking about other Facebook Live videos. So go to the top of this post, and there is a link to my website, and it'll list all of the Facebook Lives that I've done in the past. And I will look after this. They're asking for a zoo one. So yeah. Stephanie says, I need help with advertising. So I would join your local Chamber of Commerce and see what kind of things they're doing to kind of get yourself out in the community. Join those Facebook groups that are like we have like local ones where like small businesses will promote. You can also do like a friends and family discount. Like if you refer a family, you get a $25 gift card or something like that. You can do things like that. I did do a sibling discount because I had a set of twins, and then I had a set of siblings 1 year, so you can do things like that. I'm not teaching next year because it would take me, I wouldn't be state licensed in time if I started now. But because I have some big things planned for the curriculum, so I'm gonna be doing that. All right, well, you guys have an awesome night. I will try and go back through and answer more questions if If I missed any, let me know. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. But again, the biggest thing, the biggest, hugest thing before you start, make sure you check your subdivision, your city, your county, your state ordinances and regulations, and all the zoning things too. Because you don't want to spend all the money and put all your heart into it if you can't do it because of something with your home or something with your subdivision or something like that. Because again, some states are cuckoo crazy with regulations and some are easy peasy. So you guys have an awesome night.